He mentions the different colorings that could be put in some products. He mentions, he even says, ghush, he says, think about a person who has a store and they leave the lights at a certain radiance so that the products look a certain way, and then once they get out of the store, they don't look that way, right? Or goldsmiths that mix gold with copper. Or someone that buys something secondhand, so a refurb, but sells it as if it's never been refurbished. That's ghush, okay? And says that it's new. That's listing your product online, right? Goes, we should have a whole fiqh of Amazon. I'm serious. Like, I was actually thinking about it as I was preparing this house. There needs to be like a whole fiqh of Amazon. Okay, what's the fiqh of online e-trade, buying and selling? Because there's so much of this stuff that modernly manifests itself in a different way. Or he said, think about a person who sells their car and then adjusts the odometer. That's like a very common practice, right? Especially when you're buying from the MashaAllah sellers. Okay? And instead of 100,000 miles, you bring it down to 80,000. You sell it as if it's 80,000. You put a different type of mileage. Or you try to disguise that it's a salvage vehicle, clean title, or all this type of stuff. And buying and selling cars that takes place, disguising these types of things, or disguising an accident, right? So painting it in a way that no one would be able to tell that it was hit. He says, think about a person... he has a bunch of them. He says, think about a person that sells a product and says, Wallahi, it is this. I swear by Allah, it's not, knowing that he's lying about that product. He says, or think about a person, and this is really interesting, superficial bidding on a product. The Prophet ﷺ actually forbid. It's called in Sharia. I remember when I studied this in fiqh of finance, I was like, this is so amazing. It's like the Prophet ﷺ saw it coming. It's called a nudge. Noon, Jim, Sheen. I was like, what is a nudge? Nudge is to actually induce a superficial bidding war on a product, so there is artificial inflation on the price. All right? So, the way that a nudge was practiced, you guys are terrified. Good. All right. This is exactly what I want, so that you think about these things as you go into buying and selling. But think about it outside of the realm of buying and selling as well. Think about nudge in the traditional sense. What it meant was, I'm in my store and I'm selling something, and then I know that this customer is coming in, so I've got my friend who's in there, and my friend comes in, and my friend starts acting like he's interested in the same product. So when I start bargaining, and I bet you they still do this in the stores around the haram. I don't bet you literally, all right? But figuratively, all right? Think about this, right? So someone else starts arguing for the same product, so it's like, no, I'll pay this much for it, and then you pay for it. But think about how this happens in the online world, superficial or artificial inflation by portraying an interest in the product that's not actually there. So he talks about a nudge, and he talks about, subhanAllah, this is in some countries, and this was also an early practice, when you would sell an animal and you wanted to show that the animal had more meat on it, you'd actually put, and don't do this if you sell animals, please, all right? There's enough cruelty towards animals. But, make them eat salt or taste salt so that they become very thirsty and they drink a lot of water and they would appear to be bloated, or they would appear to have more meat on them than they actually do, and then sell it at a higher price. All of these practices, like, we've been very creative as humankind at cheating people and deceiving people and putting on false appearances, whether it's with animals or with cars or with clothes, right? And whether it's online or it's on site in the traditional sense.